Hello, everyone. It's time to eat, drink, and be merry with your hosts, Lisa and Nancy.
Hey, everybody. It is summertime in Arizona, but that doesn't mean you don't drink wine. There's all kinds of good wines to enjoy during the summer, and that means we're going to be chatting with Peggy Fiandaca today. It is the first Wednesday of the month, and that means it is wine time with Peggy. Peggy and her husband, Curt, own and run LDV Winery in Arizona. The vineyard is in the Chiricahua foothills in southeast Arizona, kind of southeast of Tucson. And then their winery tasting room is in Scottsdale, and it's air conditioned, right, Peggy? Welcome back. How are you?
Absolutely. Yes, you need the air conditioning now. It's gotten warm out there.
I love following you guys on social media, but it makes me homesick. And I'm like, if we were there, we would be hanging out at Peggy's all the time.
Absolutely.
It looks you've been having all kinds of events at the tasting room. You've been doing the aromatherapy classes. You can pronounce that better than I can.
Yeah.
The vin, blah, blah,
Linez de Vin. Linez
Yeah, I got the
de
vin.
Yep. The art of the nose.
The art of the nose. It seems like you've been doing a lot. And then, am I right? You released some more new wines for us to all enjoy.
Yeah, not quite yet. We're bottling and hopefully we'll be releasing our 2018 reds, but we did do a new white. It's called Rhyolite White.
That's it. That was the one. Ooh, Rhyolite.
Yes, because that's obviously the rock, the granite that came out of the Chiricahua Mountains and that are peppered all through our vineyard. And so the Rhyolite White really picks up that minerality from that granite. It's awesome.
That's my favorite kind of white wine. It's got that minerality in it. That's like, it's just so smooth. And it's like, you feel like you're part of Mother Nature.
Right.
It's like that, right?
Exactly. It's a good connection to Mother Nature. Absolutely.
So how is the vineyard? I mean, it's so interesting. Every month we want to hear what's going on in the vineyard because, you had like a crazy winter, then here comes spring, and then you talked about bud break and then start of veraison. Where are we now? I mean, it's because you even said in a note, it's like it's starting to look towards harvest. I'm like, how could that be? Are we really at that time?
Yeah, we're heading there, and it's an exciting time because it's a busy time too because we have to get prepared. So we're preparing the winery to be able to bring in the grapes and have plenty of room. So that's why we have to get this last bit of bottling labeling done so we can pack those wines away for a little bit so we can harvest. But in the vineyard, I mean, vines grow like weeds. They grow like crazy. And I think I talked last month potentially about we do analysis of the vine's health. So we do these petiole samples and so we do that 4 times a year, usually 3 to 4 times a year, but we did that in June, and that has told us what nutrients we need to add to the vineyard. And so we did do the nutrients that we were able to add through the irrigation system. So now we're spraying because some nutrients like phosphorus or copper, sometimes it's better to spray those nutrients onto the vines because they have the leaves absorb them better. And then other nutrients are better to go to the roots and go. So we've done the roots. Now we're going to be doing the spraying of the nutrients in the next week or so. And so it's
like a vitamin shot for everybody.
Absolutely.
But they don't feel like they're having to do the B12 bend over.
Right, exactly. But those vines have been just pushing energy from the roots up those vines to all of the shoots and starting to produce clusters. It takes a lot out of them. And so we're also continuing to do shoot thinning and making training the vines up to the third level of wires so that we create that canopy. Remember, we've talked many times about creating that canopy, which is so important.
Breathability. Yeah.
And the breathability within letting that airflow go within the vines, but also protecting that canopy protects the vines at our high altitude. The intensity of the sun, not so much the heat of the sun, but the intensity of the sun can sunburn the grapes. And of course, color comes from the grape skins. So we want to protect them as long as we can. So it's just a lot of handwork in the vineyard. So
that's amazing. Like when you think how much goes into this, it's not just like, oh, we'll just go get some grapes and stomp on them and squish it out and add yeast and off we go. There's so much work to producing these amazing bottles of wine. And summer to me has got to be just as rough as, winter. I don't know. Is there ever like a time where you just don't you can breathe?
Well, winter is, when the vineyard goes dormant, at least we don't have to deal with the vineyard, but then we're working the wine that's in the winery. And so it's a different kind of work. And usually it's not as time sensitive work. So we could take a vacation if we ever do, but it would be in the winter time, or it would be in.
Yeah, you could come on a road trip with Nancy.
Yeah, exactly.
Come on.
Or early spring, we can probably get away, but not this time of year. Too much.
It's hard because everything's growing and it's doing its thing. And at the same time, you've got monsoon rains to start looking at. Have you had
Correct.
any yet?
Well, monsoon season has officially started. And no, we've had some rain. We've had, how the monsoon, the clouds just start bubbling up. It's a certain kind of cloud. It's very distinctive. So we've seen some of that in the mountains, but the humidity is so low still. The humidity usually comes up a bit during monsoon. So no, we're not quite there yet. It is hot at the vineyard. I'm not there today, but it was 101 there, which is unusual because we usually don't get above 100 at the vineyard. But it was 101 yesterday, and that's warm for the field workers, out there for 8 hours.
Yeah, I know that Tucson was like 110.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's same with Phoenix, where I am. It was 110 already this week. So it's warm here.
So air conditioning at the winery. It's a good time to remember to drink water in between your sips of wine.
Of course, because you don't want to get dehydrated. Absolutely.
Right.
So we are. This is July, so we are 4 weeks out. So by the end of July, we'll be veraison, which is such a beautiful time, I think, in the vineyard. It's when all that sugar is starting to develop in the actual grape clusters, and the clusters, particularly the red and the white, but the red, you really notice the change in color from, the lighter, burgundy color to really start to change. It's awesome.
Do you guys get excited when you see the fruit, like the first grape?
Oh gosh, yes. We've been at this over 15 years, but I get excited every time,
when you just can't take it for granted, because this is you're working with Mother Nature, who can, be really kind and then go, sorry, I have to do this to you because I have to fix this over here.
Well, and our grapes are like gold to us. So, our vineyard is the most, in my opinion, the most important part of our process. So if we take really good care of those, every one of those vines, and they get a lot of our attention. So it's exciting to see how they grow and develop, and you see how the different leaves are from, our Syrah versus our Grenache, and all the changes that occur is pretty exciting. I think, to me, it is still.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm excited for you guys, and we still can't wait. We're like, we got to come west. We got to go home. We got to go see Peggy. Got to go to the vineyard. And I don't care what time of year. I don't care if it's dormant. I still want to go. We still have to go. But so what's happening in the actual tasting room should people know about for summer? Do you have more events coming up? I saw something about music. What's going on?
We don't have music because our place is a little bit too small to have live music. Oh my gosh, would I love to. But it's a little bit too small. But we do have supper club. So once a month we have the winemaker supper club, and it's limited to only 20 people, and we work with this wonderful caterer that pairs our wines perfectly, and so it's a 4 or 5 course incredible meal at the tasting room, and we just have a lot of fun, and we talk wine and drink a lot of wine and have a lot of laughs. I call it the supper club because I'm Italian, and every supper is really important, and I'm from the Midwest, and supper is when you sit around the table with family and friends and just talk about absolutely anything. And usually a bottle of wine is always on the table. So
I think it's, well, what I learned from psychologists that were on our show was a husband and wife team. They said that you have to have, whenever they have their husband and wife meeting, so that one was an attorney and one was a psychologist. And she's
wow.
been on every TV show to, known to man on that. They have a cocktail or wine because if you're sipping, you can't argue back.
So you have to take a sip and listen.
And it's hard for Italians because, I'm just saying, I mean that in the best way.
Oh, you're right. You're exactly right. And I am the quiet one. I was always the more reserved one in my family. My family is a true, and we're Italian and Irish, and so I got all the Irish looks, the light skin and the light hair and everything else.
But you're the party planner. See, that's the thing. You're the hostess with the mostest. Because on the shows, we haven't been to one of your parties, but I want to go because everything about food, entertaining, and it's so funny because it still sits in my brain about so many things. You always go, don't tell someone if you missed something or forgot something for the dinner party. And I swear, once in a while, like Nancy's like, remember what Peggy says. You need to learn this now. And I'm like, I get it. You sit in the back of my head and certain things. I'm like, I meant to do this. I'm going to tell Nancy's like, remember what Peggy says. It applies to so many things.
I
Not
love
just dinner
it.
parties. Isn't it true though? We tend
does.
to, and people look at you like, why are you telling me this? Like, why did you ruin what was always already
perfect
and good? Yeah. It's funny how we do that. And so that is a piece of advice that I think I'll always remember you for.
I love that. That is
like,
awesome.
Don't ever tell people when you forgot something.
Just drink the wine.
You know what I mean?
Just drink more wine. It's not a biggie.
More wine. So summer, I know it's really warm now. So, go to the tasting room, have tasting. So we're doing definitely lighter wines right now. I know we are in Kansas City where we are today. Woo.
Yeah. I think you find your favorite pool pounders, I call them, the kind of wines that you can have a little chill on them, and they're perfect for sitting out on the patio or, enjoying the outdoors or floating in the pool. So our Viognier is just perfect for that. We have this wonderful rosé of Grenache, but there's so many beautiful rosés out there that you can chill and they're perfect for summer days, or even a light red. Don't shy away from reds.
Pinot Noir can actually do it. I'm like, quite frankly, at the end of the day, I will take a Malbec or a Syrah or a good cab. At the end of the day, you're not going to take the red away from me. I don't care. I don't care if it's 200 degrees. There's air conditioning, there's pools, there's, you can do it. I do have a question for you because I know we're going to talk about storing wine and aging wine.
Right.
And we're going to talk about must. Ooh. That musty smell could be good or not, right? But I do want to ask you this about pool pounding and drinking wine by the pool. So a lot of times you don't want to have glassware at a pool.
Right.
What do we do at this point? Number one, no styrofoam cups. Not with Peggy's wine. I will come after you.
Right.
But where can we go where, like, I saw Diane Keaton drink red wine and ice on Ellen. It was a reel that came up on Facebook, and I went, "Don't show Peggy. Don't show Peggy." But that's how she enjoys it. So be it. You know what I mean?
So
honestly.
So be it.
What can we use that I mean, because you really don't want broken glass in a
Right,
pool area. So
right, right.
what would you say? What should we do?
They have these wonderful acrylic wine glasses.
Mm.
And the key to, if you go like with an acrylic wine glass, make sure that the lip that you're drinking from is not really thick. You know, a lot of those
Oh,
cheaper outdoor glasses are really thick.
they're like that
And
margarita style that they kind of do for
correct.
margarita and wine and no.
Correct. But I've
Mm.
seen some very nice acrylic wine glasses that you can do outdoors. And again, I would do an actual wine glass instead of the stemless, only because you're fighting the heat too. So when you
Yeah.
do that glass that doesn't have a stem and you're holding it like that, you're warming your wine even quicker. So I say get a stem, get an acrylic one, check the lip, make sure it has a nice bowl on it so that you're enjoying the wine. And if you have to put ice in it, go ahead
Don't
and
tell
do that.
Peggy.
Go ahead and do it, but drink it fast so you don't water down your
Yeah, you don't want to water it
wine.
down, but some people, it is really, to me, I always believe, do what you want to do. You live once, and
Yeah.
if that's how you enjoy it, do it. But
Yeah.
like once in a while, just start trying without it, because once you realize you get that full, I want the full body. I'm
Right.
sorry.
I'd rather
I
have
want-
you get one of those coolers that floats. You know, you put and you're floating in the pool or whatever. Let that cooler float next to you, and put your glass of wine and bottle of wine in that
Oh,
floating cooler. I'd rather have you do that than ice.
oh, I agree with you. I agree with you. Well, yeah, we just, we travel with our wine, and it's always we put it in those baggies, because you do
Uh-huh.
not want glass as we travel and we
Right.
sneak it around. So,
Right.
yeah, you know how we are. But it is about having ice on the outside, not on the inside. And
Right.
we've really just learned this balance. And I know we talked about this before, of like one ice bag, not the big blue things, just one of those. It's almost like a little silicone, little
Oh,
mushy,
yeah, sure. I know
like
what you're
what you
talking
would
about.
use for first aid more than you would
Yeah.
like for like freezing food.
Right.
So it's gentle on the wine. And so if you put it, I know the baggie's not preferential, I know, but it's temporary, Peggy. It's only
Okay.
for a few hours,
Yeah,
right? It
that's
goes from the
okay.
bottle into that, and it's sealed. You can, store it for 30 days, but that doesn't happen. And so it actually is just gentle. So I feel
Yeah.
like some shocking, I don't want to shock the wine.
Right. We're going to talk about age-worthy wines.
Yeah.
You know, how you treat your wine is so important, not only when you're going to be drinking it, you're traveling with it, or you're storing it. It's all, you need to take care with it. Unless you're just buying wine to drink that day, go for it. You know, it doesn't really matter.
I remember once, years ago, when we started the magazine, and I was in somewhere in San Diego County, and I did some work with a winery, and next thing you know, of course, I walk out with a case of wine, and I was probably in my late 20s. I had no clue, other than I loved wine, but I had no idea about wine. And I went to see a client of mine, and she owns a dress shop. I know exactly where it was. She goes, "You just went to this winery. What's in your car? Did you buy wine?" I said, "Yeah, I have a case of I'm surprising Nancy." She goes, "Go get that wine out of your car now."
Right.
And I'm like,
Right.
But she goes, "Bring it in here," because her family is Italian wine people. Go figure.
Right.
Anyway, she goes, "Don't you dare leave wine in a hot car. It's
Oh,
like leaving
gosh.
your baby or your pets in the car. You do not ever leave wine in a hot car." She goes, "If you go to a winery, go back and pick it up, or you've got to do something." And she says, and she got mad at me because it was standing upright in the sun in the back.
Oh,
No, you put
boy.
it on the side. She saved the wine.
Yeah, she did. She
Thank you,
really
Leslie.
did. Yeah,
Yes. So explain this because it was dramatic.
it is. It is. Temperature swings are so bad for wines. You know, we've talked about consistency in how you handle your wine. So stable, proper temperature is very important, even for a short amount of time. That's why we don't ship wine in the summertime, because I don't know how long it's going to be on that truck. I don't know if that truck is air conditioning. Air conditioned. I don't know how long it's going to sit at the UPS waiting to be shipped. So we only do overnight in the summertime, but so you can get your wine, but it's an overnight, and I can somewhat guarantee that it's going to arrive safely. But yeah, the temperature is the most critical. So when you're thinking about what's the proper temperature, we're looking at about 55, or excuse me, not 55. About 55 degrees is what is ideal. And not everyone has a wine refrigerator or anything, but if you can find a place in your house, which I always like to say the closet in your master bedroom on the floor is probably the coolest place in your house. Never in the kitchen. That's your hottest place in your house. So
and not above the fridge.
Not above the fridge, not in those wine racks.
Remember that last time you're like, stop the wine rack on top of the fridge. Don't have the wine rack next to the stove.
Right. Get rid of those, use them for something else. But find a place in your house. If you have a basement, like if you're in the Midwest or back East, you have basements. So
they're cool. That's the cool, dark
wonderful place. But the other issue about that is humidity is also something you don't want to have a lot of. So reducing the amount of humidity is very important too if you're going to age wine for very long. Both of those
Most
will
people with
impact
basements have a humidifier thingy down
Correct.
there. You empty it or drain it. I do a lot of that as we travel the country. So as we pets it, it's a thing we do. But it's interesting because you can tell like what happens in basements. If you're not watching what's going on, it can heat up. If you're doing your laundry in the basement, that whole concept of cool, dark place went out the window if you're doing laundry. So there is so in your bedroom, in the closet, now, would you keep it upright in the box or put it on its side?
No, I would definitely put it on the side because you definitely want to store your wine on its side, because particularly if it has a cork, because you want to keep that cork a little wet, so it does not dry out. So the humidity also and the heat will also impact the quality of the cork, and then you're going to get some seepage possibly through that cork, and you don't want wine seeping out of your bottle, and also or air getting into your bottle because that will also destroy it. So heats, the stability of the humidity, lay it on its side. If you go to the buy wine and maybe you don't buy a whole case, but you buy a variety of different wines, use that box though, have them put it in one of the wine boxes and then set that on its side. It's a great way to keep it dark. So light is also will impact your ageability of your wine. And that box will hold it on its side. And it's a good way, and put it in the closet on the floor. And
that's a good master bedroom closet, man. And don't do it in your guest room because you never know about your guests.
It'll disappear, right?
Yes.
One other thing to think about is vibration. So for example, we built our wine cellar in our previous house under the stairway, going to the second, or going to our lower level. And usually I would say, don't ever do that because you got kids running up and down on those stairs and the vibration. So we actually put insulation and in the ceiling of the wine cellar underneath the stairwell to reduce the amount of vibration. So if your house is located near a railroad track or, it gets, has that level of vibration, that could impact your wine cellar or impact your wines that you're trying to store.
Especially if it's continuous, like one time you can have an earthquake or something, or tremor. That can affect it. But is this because it's moving the molecules in the wine? So the wine's
and shaking the
up.
sediment that might be in the wine. It's just,
so it doesn't want to move. You don't want to move it.
No, you don't want to move it. You want to just lay it down and leave it alone until you're ready to drink. You let it be lazy.
So this is it. So your wine, when you buy it from the winery, This is now your baby. It is your pet. You do not leave it in the
Right.
car as such.
Yep.
You treat it, you don't, but it is a lazy pet that doesn't need food or water.
No.
It just wants, it's the easiest pet and you can drink it,
Yep. Exactly.
but treat it like your loved one. Yes.
So, most wine is made to drink right away,
Mhm.
so, our wines, and I'll tell you a little bit about why, but our wines are ageable. And so when you're thinking about if your wine is ageable, if here's a quick and easy rule of thumb. If it's under $20, drink it now. Maybe you can drink it next week, maybe in 2 weeks, maybe a month from now, but not much longer than that. You probably need to drink that wine. It's a very young wine. If your wine is over maybe $50, $60 and it's a red wine, it probably is ageable. Now, a lot of things come into play is how that wine was made to determine ageability, but that's when you purchase that wine, that more expensive bottle of wine, hopefully you talk to someone and ask them about that.
That's what's hard about grocery stores and wine. You know what I mean? Unless you already know. And sometimes you can find really good wines.
Right.
Sometimes they have local wine sections and, things like some stores are good. So
Yeah.
and I'm not knocking them, but sometimes like be careful, like, and then the label will say it's like 2018.
Right.
And then now I'm thinking, Peggy, if it's $15 and it says 2018, maybe you don't want it.
Yeah. No, just drink it. Have fun with it.
I'm always like, I'll just taste it.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's either good or it's not for me.
So other ways to think about your wine. So if the wine has a nice acidity level, so it's because acidity in the wine, the higher the acidity, maybe the more ageability of that wine, because over time the acidity will balance out a little bit more. So that adds freshness and structure to the wine. Or if it's a high tannic wine, like our Petite Syrahs are very high tannic wines. Tannins over time will mellow with age, and the tannins are important and can help determine the ageability of the wine. So if you're buying an expensive Cabernet Sauvignon or a Petite Syrah or a Syrah, oh my gosh, some wonderful Syrahs that are actually aged will really change in complexity, and they're a lot of fun to watch over time.
Yeah, I think I may have told you this, when we were on a show before, but we were for the mountains in San Diego. Julian's an interesting wine area in Southern California and near Temecula. And Jay Jenkins, he's passed since. But we were doing a tasting there and with Linda Kassam, Linda. And they recently found a barrel of his 2004, 2005 Syrah. I can't remember if it was 2004, 2005. This was 2012. I remember because we had just started our tour, Love Your Parks tour, and Linda was with us and she was teaching us this is not what you do with your wine. This is what you do with our wine. It was a good lesson. And the girl's like, hey, he found this wine and he never liked it. And so we just forgot about it. Oh my God, that Syrah, I'm like, I'll do anything for a good Syrah. Like that's my thing. This wine was incredible. And then she had one that she had opened maybe that morning or the day before. It was night and day difference in taste, but that wine, that's a long time to age and just sit in the barrel. No one touched it. He's like, I don't care about it. He was a scientist. And so he went from science to winemaking and a farmer, right? So that's kind of a good combo.
Yes, it is.
But that wine that blew me away. So for you guys as winemakers, the longer it's like, how do you know when to say, okay, we're bottling it when you're aging it? Like, does it make a difference if the size barrel or like what, because I've heard about people that do twirly things in the barrel and move the wine around with paddles and stuff. And like, what's going on for the aging? Like, what What was that? They told us about it while we were sipping wine. So
Really?
it's out my
Okay,
head.
okay.
Yeah, no, they get in there with paddles once they first do it
Oh,
and
yes.
paddle it, and they're paddling. There's the women were doing
Okay.
this. There was an old school way of doing stuff,
Wow.
non-machinery. Resurrection Winery. That's the
Okay.
name. Yeah, this is out in
Okay.
Colorado. And the mom and daughter get out there and they start paddling the wine, and with these big, like they're swirling the wine, and they do it
Wow.
like as some kind of system on it. I think it's at the very beginning.
I was going to say during fermentation, maybe.
I think so.
That makes
Yes.
sense.
There was
Sure.
like a window
Sure.
of time they had to do it in.
Sure. Yes.
Yeah.
During fermentation, we call it punching down because you're mixing
that's
the
it.
wine. Yes.
That's
yes.
it.
Yes. Yes. And
Okay.
that is a common step in the fermentation process, because a cap of is created on the top of all that juice, and you need to punch it down. You need to, so that
Okay.
the other juice is able to flow and mix it
cream
all
will
in. Yep, yep, yep.
rise.
So yes, exactly. So it's called punching down. We do
That's
that 3 times a day while during the fermentation process. So every one of the fermentation bins, which are quite large, they are punched down 3 times a day.
It's
So
heavy work from what I could see.
Oh yeah, no need to go to the gym. It's a lot. It's heavy work. It's really get your arms and back and everything else
And it's just funny because they were very persistent that they did it as women.
Oh,
to
how
show up.
funny. Oh,
Yeah, they were just,
gosh.
it was in a good way. But so once you go through the fermentation, then there's the aging portion. How do you know when? I mean,
Right.
you get to do a lot of tasting.
Well,
Obviously.
it all depends on the winemaker style. You know, if you're aging in barrels, they're going to age longer. As you know, we age our wines a long time, up to 3 years in the barrel, and then we bottle age almost another year. So like we're just now releasing our 2018s, which people are now releasing 2020s and 2021s. But
Wow.
it's just our philosophy, and our wine and those wines are ageable even further. You know, so once you take them home, you can continue to age them and see how they evolve.
So you're a part of the process. It's kind of
Right.
part of being so not drinking them right away is part of that co-creative process of patience. Wine and
Yeah.
patience go hand in hand.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
We were
Wow.
watching a movie the other night, sitting on the couch, and I get this call from a customer who opened up a bottle of 2012, one of our 2012 Petite Sirahs. And he goes, I just had to call you. It's like 10 o'clock at night or 9:30 at night. He goes,
This is a good call though.
Yeah, he said, I just had to call you because I'm sitting out on my patio. I'm drinking this wine and it is absolutely phenomenal. It is tasting even better than I remembered. He goes, I'm so excited. I have a few more bottles still in my cellar, so I'm excited to tell you about it.
So when people take notes, it's like, here's my original tasting, and then they go back to their notes to see how it changed.
Right. Oh my gosh. Yes. If you find a wine you like that could be ageable, get a case, invest in a case of it. And then, you know, mark that case and say, I'm going to try this in 6 months. I'm going to try a bottle in a year from now. I'm going to try it in 2 years. And you'll see the magic of fine wine and how that changes over time. It's pretty exciting. You know, but most people think you can only age red wines, or you could only age dry red wines. That's not true. You know, some of the longest lived wines in terms of aging tend to be sweet wines. So they have a higher sugar content. So wines like a French Sauterne or German Riesling can be aged for quite a long time. Or Chenin Blanc, primarily a Chenin Blanc, not so much because it's a sweet wine, but because it's higher in acidity. So it is very ageability for a white wine. So not all white wines, you know, you can do that with, but there are some. Sparkling wine. You can have a sparkling wine that can age for 50, 60, or more years. It may lose its bubbles over time, but what changes is the flavor of the wine. It typically becomes more nuttier, like a nuttier taste, and creamier as the champagne or the sparkling wine really ages.
So when you do that, do you have to turn it, or is that more of when they're making it?
That's when they're making it because
Okay.
of the sugar in the wine, and they have to riddle that. I think we talked about.
Oh, that's right.
riddling
Yeah,
at
riddling.
one time. Yeah,
That's one of the terms. Okay, wait, you have must as the term. I was like, okay, we're talking about must. Okay.
Must. When we harvest our grapes, we bring them onto what we call the crush pad, or our outside patio area that we then destem the grapes, and it goes through a machine that destems it. And then what's left, like the skins, the seeds, the juice, all of that looks like a mush, basically. It's called must, M-U-S-T. And it's after the Latin word vino mustum, M-U-S-T-U-M. And that means young wine. So it's really the very first step in making red wine.
So it's got nothing to do with the musty smell.
No, nothing to do
No
with
musty, no musky.
No, it's the very first step. And so that must then goes into what we use as our fermentation tanks, and gets inoculated and begins the fermentation process from there. So must is an interesting word.
I've never knew that at all. You got me on that one. Big time. Good one. Good one. I love it. So, okay, we're learning about aging. Okay, so we've learned about must, but it is summer, and you've got a super cool, and I mean cool, recipe to share with people. Everyone, it's jicama tacos, right? Shrimp tacos, and the link will be in the show notes, so you can link to that and check it out. So tell us about this, because jicama, that's very Southwestern. A lot of us, use that. I love, it's like a potato apple to me.
Yeah, it is very much so. And I think I talked last month about grilling and barbecue and so on, but not in summertime when it's hot. You don't always want to turn on the stove or light a grill. You want something fresh and quick and not have to cook. So this is the perfect recipe for you. But jicama, which usually is a round kind of it's a vegetable, right? Round
It's a
kind of vegetable.
It's like a root vegetable.
Yeah, root
It's
vegetable,
brown.
right?
You'll find it in the stores. I get them from Melissa's. I always get theirs because they're good. Unless you have a local grower.
Yes.
They tend to keep their juices and not get over watery. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
You can get jicamas that aren't grown well, and then there's ones that just you can still, yeah.
Right.
Oh, I'm hungry.
And for those who may not know, what the heck is she saying? Jicama is spelled Jicama, jicama. But you need to take the skin off the jicama because it does have a skin like a potato skin or whatever. And then what I use is a mandolin to slice the jicama really thinly, because you're making tacos, so or a taco-like wrapper. So I use a mandolin on a very small amount, and then you want to get a round size. So I think the recipe calls for a 1.5 to 2 pound jicama. Might be a good.
Might want to get two to get this started too, because I can see
it's tricky.
To get these the way you want is to bend and not break, and you're gonna have to do it right. But it's cool because you can still use it I use them in coleslaw.
Oh gosh, yeah.
So to me, whatever mistake would end up being chopped up finely and put into coleslaw.
Yep, it's awesome. And then while I'm doing them, I put them in water just to let them stay pliable while I'm cutting them all up and then preparing the rest of it. And it's very simple. This recipe, you can buy already cooked shrimp if you want shrimp, and then I like to marinate it in some Tabasco, the green Tabasco,
Oh, here she
which
goes.
is
She likes her
fun.
hot stuff. Peggy
I
wants her
do
hot
like my
stuff.
hot stuff. Yep. And
Mhm.
let it marinate for about 30 minutes while you're making, make your salsa. Of course, you can buy your salsa and doctor it up after you bought it, or I have a great little recipe for making your own salsa and make it as spicy as you want, and save the fresh lime until you're ready to serve it, to put it on top. And then I also like to make a little salad of avocado and some mixed lettuce, or you can do a coleslaw, not a mayonnaise coleslaw, but a little coleslaw. That you might put on it, or beans, like we talked about. Black beans would be wonderful. Like,
black beans.
yeah. So you take your jicama and you put whatever you want, like your black beans, or in this case, I put the salad on the bottom, top it with my shrimp, and then top it with my salsa and spritz some lime on it and pour some Viognier or Sauvignon Blanc and sit on the patio. It's wonderful.
Oh my gosh. And you use a nice toothpick to hold them together. That's important too.
Yeah,
But,
exactly.
I mean, this is like a basis of something that you could do. I was wondering, because I know Nancy and I don't eat seafood and fish because we're allergic to it,
right.
but I was watching a surfer dude. See, I get 2 in the morning. What is Lisa doing? I'm watching like Instagram reels and some surfer dude. And I was like, well, no, he was cute. And he was making ceviche, but I thought what he was doing, because he's like, it's hot. I don't want to, cook. So, and it was interesting what he was doing. And I was just thinking, your recipe, you could ceviche and put it inside the jicama nicely.
Yeah.
Get that fish, let it cook in the lime, and put the lime in the coconut.
Yeah, or do it with mushrooms, like a variety of different mushrooms, and you can make it a vegetarian dish. It's just easy. Yeah,
nice and cooling. Jicama is a very cooling.
It is
cooling vegetable, and like for me, coleslaw, I don't do the mayonnaise. That's not my thing on it, and I do more of a vinaigrette or like a balsamic. Something you can put berries, you can put you can do pineapple goes really well. I was thinking that too when you were talking about the salsa little.
Yeah,
I'm hungry now.
I know,
you always
right?
do this to me. You make me hungry and thirsty. I can now. I want to go buy some jicama. Like seriously, but it's healthy.
It's very healthy. Yeah.
So the healthier the food is, the more you can drink of the wine. That's my mentality, right? That's the way to go. I love it. Always fun having you on the show, Peggy. Peggy is here every first Wednesday. It's Wine Time with Peggy. Who can't forget that? I mean, it's good times. Go to ldvwinery.com. Again, that is in the show notes. So no matter if you're watching this on YouTube or listening on Spotify, however you're getting our podcasts, and thank you for listening, all the links are there for the recipes and also the notes on storing. So everything is there. And of course, keep up with us at bigblendradio.com. And happy summer, everyone. Thank you.